All right, smile. Thank you. Good morning. I first want to share just a little bit about my journey of how I got to stand in this rectangle up here that says IDEAcademy. I was born in Kingsport. I grew up in Colonial Heights when it was Route 1, Fordtown, Tennessee. My father came here to work at Tennessee Eastman Company after working on a little project called the Manhattan Project with Clinton Engineering Works in Oak Ridge during World War II. Part of my father's job with Tennessee Eastman was convincing bright and brilliant people to come to Kingsport, Tennessee to work. And one of those bright and brilliant people that he was responsible for bringing to Kingsport was a guy named Toy Reed. And I'm about to cry. What a life mentor he was to me, and to be standing here in this center talking to you it humbles me greatly. But I'm pleased to do that. I am a proud alumnus of East Tennessee State University, a co-sponsor of this event, and being part of this makes me even more proud of having graduated from that school, but I brag about it everywhere I go. I worked for the Kingsport City Schools. Wasn't that a phenomenal presentation? And I taught middle school history for 30 years. I taught middle school for 30 years. So if you think you can misbehave in this audience, listen. And I always know the kids to look for because they go in the back corners. But if they allowed me to be innovative as a teacher, one of the students I taught is on this picture behind me, and her name is Beth Griffin. And one of the things that I remembered about Beth the most was that she danced everywhere she went. Her walk was a dance. This girl loved and lived dance. Now here's another thing I remember. Remember, I'm a middle school teacher, and there's no meaner species on the planet Earth than a middle school girl. Because wherever three of them are gathered, there's two against one. Now, fortunately, they grow out of that. But Beth was one of those that everybody liked Beth. Everybody liked Beth. Beth went to college at Agnes Scott in Atlanta, Georgia, and after she graduated from college, she had this career choice. Do I go be the dance captain of the Olympics team, or do I take this job as a non-human primate research worker at a National Primate Research Center in Atlanta? She took that job as the research worker. And while she was transferring monkeys one day, one of them took some matter off the bottom of a cage, as monkeys do when they get a little upset, and they throw it at you. And it hit Beth in the eye. And the end result of that was Beth contracted a virus that monkeys have, a type of herpes virus, and it killed her. And I lost a piece of my soul when Beth Griffin died. I lost a piece of my faith when she died because I had prayed and, I just thought something miraculous was going to happen. But it wasn't going to be that way. Well, one of the things Beth's family did was rather remarkable. They set up a foundation, a private 501c3 foundation that I am the executive director of, to work with the non-human primate research community in occupational health and safety and making it safer work. Because you see, to find cures for diseases requires doing some risky and some uncomfortable things if we're going to be a healthy world. Well, that community didn't beat a path to their door, so the late Bill Griffin asked me, he said, would you come up with a list of people who could serve as a part-time executive director and create some relationships so we can get our mission done. So I suggested some names to him. He said, you're not on this list. I said, I don't know anything about zoonotic diseases other than rabies, and I'm a history teacher, and I know that some soldiers threw a smallpox-infected blanket at some people back in the 1700s, but other than that, that's it. He said, no, but you can learn, and you know us, and you knew her. And now I stand here. My classroom now is the world, and for those of you who don't know it, because we're here in Kingsport, Tennessee, the people who are in my world know the Elizabeth R. Griffin Foundation exceptionally well. But when I explain Kingsport, Tennessee, I tell them I live in the slow lane and commute, and I do love living here. We are recognized for our excellence, and I want you to know that excellence doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you pursue being great. I was at a university recently, and they were explaining university rankings to me, and they said you have to pursue being great in 5 categories to get up on that list. Not being good, being great. So what we had to do was pursue being great at what we did. Now here's the other thing. You are not the judge of your own image or your own impact. And when you collaborate, you need to make sure that you have friends who will calibrate reality for you. They will tell you whether you're being effective or not. I can go out and say, I am so effective, but if my audience doesn't say I'm effective, I'm not. But when my audience says I am, it's charging my batteries and lets me know that I'm going the right direction. But here's what the direction looks like. So we started off, our mission was to work with safety with people who work with non-human primates, and we still do that. And we thought we had a wonderful idea, and it would just be Zoom to get there, and nope. Say hello to reality. Now there's different labels for every one of those turns, but there's been a number of turns that have been made that didn't lead to the end goal. And while we were working our way to the goal in 2003, there was an outbreak called SARS. You might remember that one. And the global response to SARS was to build these high containment labs that we could diagnose and work on vaccines all over the world. And one of our non-human primate friends came to us and said, they're building planes and they don't have any pilots, and these are very unsafe work environments, and you all need to get in there and work with them as you have worked with us. So now our maze had a new target. Now here comes the collaboration. I am the executive director of the Elizabeth R. Griffin Foundation. I am also the IT department, the executive assistant, the travel department, the public relations department. I am it. And everybody that does anything working for our foundation does what they really do for a living, or they don't do it for us. Because we want people who are familiar with our culture. Now, we have to get people on board. And when we talk about on board, we talk collaborate, not cooperate. When my mother said cooperate with me, that meant do it her way. Collaborate means we're both going to give and take a little bit. We have a common mission that we can both value from it being accomplished. And the easy way to do that in collaboration is to find partners. And the first partners you want to look like are the birds of your own feather, as opposed to those who are opposed to you and what you're about and telling you you're doing things the wrong way. You find those people who have the bright eyes, who want to go along with you, who kind of agree. They nod their heads up and down. I get in audiences, I look for people who nod up and down, and I go, you're a bird of my feather. We can work together. And the more birds of a feather that get together, it's amazing what happens to the opposition. More or less, they become the birds of the feather. Well, here are the birds of our feather now. These are groups and institutions and organizations around the world with whom we work. The little old Elizabeth R. Griffin Foundation. The teeny tiny ones. And there's ones up there like the World Health Organization. Big entities. But 2 of them are in bold letters. One of them is the Association of Primate Veterinarians. They're the first group we worked with. I didn't even know there was such a group. But it just so happens that these were the people who do vaccine research and infectious disease research and all that. That's the core of those people. And when all this other stuff started happening, they're the ones who knew and made the introductions to a group called the American Biological Safety Association, which I also didn't know existed. And they began making introductions because that was an international audience, and we grew and we grew and we grew. Now here's one of the quick lessons I also learned. You have to jump out of your boat before getting the other people to jump in. You have to understand their world before they understand yours. I am forever grateful to the Primate Research Center at the University of Wisconsin. They invited me up, and I got to spend time washing cages and feeding monkeys and transferring them. I know what it smells like. I know what it feels like. I started knowing stuff. So when I started talking to an audience, I could relate not out of virtual reality, but out of real reality, because you have to jump out of your boat before you ask other people to jump in. You start with a bar of soap. It's a simple solution. You know the best thing to prevent the spread of infectious diseases is to do what? Wash your hands. That's really simple. Doesn't take a lot of money. So one of the things we talked about was washing your eyes out, but another thing we talked about was for people to carry a card with them, because physicians know about your insurance, but they usually don't know what you do for a living. And if you have a high-risk occupation, you need to have a card that says, I may be a zebra, not a horse. Okay? And if I work with infectious agents, if I work with something that can kill me, you maybe ought to take a sample of my blood, because I may be just a little bit different than everybody else. Here's another thing we did. We hired somebody that knew what they were doing. I went to a marketing person. Marketing people know what they're doing. They know how to deliver messages. I knew how to teach middle school history. They knew how to attract an audience. They came up with a simple poster that said, "Practice safe specs." Now, this was back when there was the other practice thing, right? Isn't that clever? And I'd go places, oh, you're the poster guys. We sent one of these posters to every research facility we knew of. And the response to it was tremendous. Not a whole lot. It's a bar of soap. Here's another very important thing, is to respect the culture of where you are. When you're collaborating, respect the culture of where you are. That's the only way they're going to respect yours. There may be things that are awkward and different. I've had algae soup. Respect the culture of where you are. A long way to go and a short time to get there. That's a cultural reference for a certain age group up here who now have this earworm. A long way to go, a short time. All right? And that's the eternal truth. I got this listening to the Eastman folks. And the time to get there is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Thank you, technology. But we still have a long way to go. We deal mostly on the safety side of people who work with emerging infectious diseases. We're the coordinating non-government entity on a multinational program called the Global Health Security Agenda, which seeks to get nations better prepared for emerging disease outbreaks. People, we have a long way to go and a very short time to get there. But that's what life's about, and you're not going to change that rule. I'm not going to change it. You're not going to change it. It's a fact you've got to accept and live with it. And the only way we can do that is to innovate and continuously innovate. I want you to think that 200 years ago, clocks did not have hands that showed the minutes, much less the seconds. Now look what your phone will tell you. Always remember and recognize who brought you to the dance. When you're going to collaborate, you always recognize those people who make things possible for you. It's the introduction, a woman named Dr. Julia Hilliard, who is the world preeminent scholar on the virus that killed Beth, introduced me to the Association of Primate Veterinarians simply by saying, he's okay. He's okay. The power of the words, he's okay, or she's okay, in an introduction says more than a CV will ever say. And you never forget the people who opened those doors for you, or the institutions that made things possible for you. That's how you get others to collaborate. You ride for your brand. Our brand started with a monkey that people said looked too mean, so we made a more gentle looking monkey. But as our work continued to grow, people said, "What's with the monkey?" And so Myra Danahy designed this, and it's recognized where we go. It's 3 very simple circles. The green one is the color of resources, blue is the color of knowledge, and the kind of reddish thing is risk. And we work to collaborate. We get institutions that have the knowledge and institutions that have the money to mitigate the risk. And hidden in the middle of all that is a biohazard emblem. But you don't see that. What you see is the circles, because that's what we do, is link the circles together. And everywhere I go, I ride for my brand. You want to get people to collaborate with you, get them to know your brand, get them to respect your brand, let them know it's for excellence, and they'll be glad to get along to ride for your brand. Small gestures have built-in amplifiers. Sometimes when I go to international audiences, I pack boxes of small moon pies because they've never had a moon pie. But when I tell them about the part of the world that I'm from, I can't take along the RC colas, but I can take along moon pies. You remember when you brought moon pies to us? And they go and they tell people. And the moon pie links to the story. And the story gets remembered because of the small gesture. You don't have to do grand and glorious things all the time. Just a small gesture says a whole lot. Now, don't go stealing my moon pie idea, okay? Never, ever underestimate the combination of desire, persistence, and opportunity. You put those 3 ingredients together, and unbelievable things happen. And it takes all 3 of them together. First of all, you got to want to do it. You know, I have the conviction that you are sitting in your seat here because you want to do something as an individual that not only makes you better at what you do, but you want to do something that makes the world a better place to live. You have a desire to do that. That's your motivation to come into this room today instead of staying at home and watching Wheel of Fortune. All right? You have persistence. You've done things. You pursued your education. You pursued excellence. You've read things you didn't have to read. You've done things you didn't have to do. That's persistence. And then there's opportunity. And some of you are already in and living that opportunity. And some of you are still looking for that magic moment. And if anybody in this audience is living proof that you are not always what you are, it's me. Most people in this community know me as a middle school teacher that I was for 30 years. And I love that. But I learned a lot of things teaching middle school, teaching history in middle school, that transfer into getting the world to be a safer place. Wow. Now that's not bragging. That's just saying that's within the human realm of possibility. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I loved watching these young women in the Olympics, didn't you? If ever there was a combination of desire, persistence, and opportunity, whoa. And look what they did, and look how much fun they had doing it. This is probably one of the most overused quotes applied to people anywhere at any time. And for me, it's one of those things that really rarely applies to a lot of people to whom it is given. But Carol Griffin Russell, Carol, where are you? All I'm seeing is light here as I look up into the sky. Carol, can you stand up wherever you are? Oh, you're right there. You are right in the light. So here's the other thing you have to have. You have to have faith. It's not just the desire, the persistence, and the opportunity. You have to have faith. And you have to have faith in other people. Now, you need to understand that Bill and Carol Griffin entrusted a middle school history teacher with helping them accomplish a mission and a vision that had nothing to do with middle school history. But that's not really the step of faith. The step of faith was they trusted me with the name of their daughter. I'm not out there doing this in my name. I'm out there doing it in someone else's name. And when you collaborate with other individuals, and Carol and I's relationship has been one of collaboration. When you collaborate with individuals, with institutions, with organizations, when universities and corporations work together to do things like this, you have to have faith in one another, that it is for your benefit, and that when the two of you get together, or the three of you, or the four of you, or the five of you, or whatever that number is, great things will happen. You are sitting in this audience today a little bit safer from emerging infectious diseases because of her. Because she had a vision, she had desire, she had persistence. It was a horrible, horrible opportunity. But then she put faith with it. And here we stand. Thank you so much for letting me be part of your day.